Welcome to the Puff and Run podcast show, your number one source for news, information about marijuana and running, the latest updates on the 420 cross country team, and races around the nation, and behind the scenes details of the Puff and Run TV web series production schedule. Bringing you all the news and more, here's your host, the Vegas 420 Runners.
All right. Let me get some noise out of the way. All right. And we're back with episode 2. Hope you guys enjoyed that overview in episode 1, but now we're going to get to if you guys didn't notice, I don't transcript these things, at least not at this point. I do plan on having a transcripted update, maybe a transcripted update message throughout these episodes. Maybe a 5 minutes of the 20 or 35 or 10 minutes of the 20 or 30 minutes may be transcripted in the future once I have more time to do so. As I kind of alluded to in episode 1, I am doing my best to bring the audience up to speed. Again, this podcast is the culmination of the past 2 or 3 years of work I've been doing as a runner and as a cannabis athlete. So I would love to go into great detail into all of that, my whole past and everything. But instead, I'm doing a few quick episodes to bring you guys up to speed, and then we're going to just keep rolling weekly, just talking about the present schedule. Anyways, if you guys remember, episode 2 was all about Vegas 420 runner and how I became the Vegas 420 runner. A lot of people always ask me that, when did you start running? They find out I'm an ultra marathoner, so they imagine I've been running all my life or something like that. And they're always surprised to find out that I just started running a few years ago. Well, all right, folks. And side note, normally this isn't going to be the format of the show, but in these first couple of episodes, I'm just telling these long-winded stories, again, to bring you guys up to speed on the present day. So, my first race, and in future episodes or in later vlogs, I'm going to go and detail each of these races and all the things I remember about them, or something like that, possibly. Anyhow, for now, I'll briefly glance over some of the more important races in my career. Let's start with my first race. It was May 2012. I had just been elected student body president of Nevada State College, and the college was calling on me to rally some students together to run a 5K. The Susan G. Komen 5K, the Susan G. Gorman, or the Susan G. 5K in Las Vegas. So I managed to wrangle a couple of my buddies together. Oh, and the school was going to pay for everything. So I was like, guys, we can just go run this 5K for free. It won't be that big of a deal. Now, before that, in preparation for that, I jogged a couple of laps around my neighborhood. I guess you could say it was, I guess it would be safe to say it was 3 miles, 3-mile laps and stuff. Hold on 1 second. I ran 3-mile laps around my neighborhood, but again, at the time, I didn't have any smartphone. I didn't have any way of judging the distance, and I just plugged away at it, just running 1 lap every so often. So finally, the day came for us to run our first 5K, and the 5K race, and I went out there with my buddies. We ran the race, and I started out pretty good. I felt strong, and at about 2 miles in, my anthropology professor, Dr. Buck, an elderly gentleman, runs past me. I briefly glance over, and I think for a second, no, hell no, I can't let this happen. But my body was already done. I was 2 miles in, had been going hard. I knew it'd only be foolish to try to keep up with him at this point. And so after the race, that was my first realization. Like, wow, I need to. I wish I was in better shape, or I think I could run faster, or how come this old gentleman beat me? It was. I was a little bit embarrassed. But anyhow, so after the race, I was like, you know what? Oh no! So after the race, now this is where it gets interesting. A friend of mine had been asking me to run a half marathon with him. My friend Jason K, and he one of his lifetime dreams was to run a half marathon by the time he graduated college. And so it was his senior year. He's the founder of the running club I was a part of at the time at the college running club, and that's how come I was also another reason why I was asked to rally some students together, because I was jogging with the running club from time to time. But the founder of the running club, Jason, he was graduating. He asked me to run a half marathon with him. This was his big dream in life. And so, I agreed to do that. I would go ahead and run the half marathon with him. Now, when I agreed to do that before the 5K. But I had agreed to do that actually the previous semester when we were just jogging a lap or two at the local track. And then I never seen Jason again for an entire semester. And then he was about to graduate. I seen him like the last week of school or so. And he asked me if I would still do the half marathon with him. I told him I probably wouldn't, since I never seen him and we never trained, that I didn't think we were going to do it. He said he still wanted to do it really bad, and he really wanted me to do it with him. This was his big goal in life and all this stuff. And so I reluctantly agreed to do the half marathon. When we immediately after that, we went downstairs to speak with the dean of the college, and the dean said that when we told him what we were up to, we were going to do a half marathon, but we hadn't really trained that much. The dean warned us against doing that. He said we could get hurt, it could be bad for the college, and he said some other things that really made me think twice about doing it. And that's when I decided that no, I don't think I'm going to jeopardize my life, because the race was in June, and it was in Las Vegas. It gets pretty hot. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to jeopardize my life. Besides, I didn't believe I could actually run a half marathon anyways. So I actually paid to do the 10K. I signed up for the 10K, and I signed him up for the half marathon. Because I was with the running club, I was in charge of signing everybody up and paying the entry fees and stuff. So I signed him up for the half marathon. I signed myself up for the 10K. The only thing is I never told him that I signed up for the 10K. And so he believed that I was running a half marathon. Even that morning when he came to pick me up, he was like, you ready to do this? I was like, yep. I got in the car, and we rode out there to Lake Mead where the race was being held. And when we got out and we were walking up to the registration booth, that's when I confessed to him, look, man, I'm going to do the 10K. He thought I was chickening out and I was just going to drop down. So he's like, man, don't worry about it. Don't drop down. Just come on, do it. It'll be fun. And I was like, nah, man, you don't understand. I signed up for the 10K. I'm not going to do the half marathon. And I don't know. He looked pretty pissed. He didn't say anything, and he couldn't believe it. I think he was pretty pissed off, and I felt really bad. But I just really wasn't ready to take it to that level. And at the time, 13.1 miles was huge, massive feat in my mind. I did not think it was humanly possible for me to pull that off. So I went with the 5K, and the 10K. So I did bump it up. So so now this is the 10K, and I went ahead and did the 10K for the first time. I have to go back and look at my time. I think it took more than an hour. It was like an hour and something, and I was really hurting out there. This is my first time doing a long race. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I wore a drawstring backpack because I wanted to carry something. I had a drawstring backpack, and that was the one and only time I ever did that. And anyways, when I got back to the finish, I sat around with some other people, my other friends, some other people from school. They did the 5K, and we waited and we waited and we waited. Oh yeah, I think Dr. Buck was there. I think Dr. Buck was there. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to go back and check. But anyways, finally, after I don't know how many hours, 3 or 4 hours, Jason comes back, and we just couldn't believe it. And he comes over, and he sits down, and he starts telling us about the half marathon. He he's telling me the story that he went out there and he got out to mile 8 and he didn't even think he can go any further, and that's when he started thinking about his grandfather, and he was dedicating this race to his grandfather. I believe his grandfather may have passed or something like that, and so that his eyes were kind of welling up with emotion and stuff, and I was just like, damn. And he was just telling the story about how amazing it felt, and just everything he was talking about made me want to try that. I was like, man, I got to experience it. It sounds like an amazing experience. I want to know what that feels like. I remember just thinking that to myself. And then I'm looking at this guy, and this guy never trains, ever. And when he runs, it's not really that fast. It's a little bit slower than my average walking pace. It's his running speed, because he likes to just go like the turtle, slow and easy. And so that's when I'm starting to think to myself, man, if he can do this, I know I can do this. And that's when I decided I'm going to run a half marathon. That was in June 2012. And that's when I decided I'm going to run a half marathon, June 2012. So then I started training, I guess, a little bit here and there, not really that serious again, because I'm just running around. I have no idea how far I'm running. I'm just running. And finally, in October 2012, I got a smartphone for the first time, the iPhone 5. And I got the smartphone and had the Nike app on it. Once I got the statistics on like how many miles I was doing, I had the Nike app GPS stuff that could calculate all my data. I was running all the time. I was increasing my stats, doing this, that, and the other, looking at the elevation. It's just because I had the smartphone, it made me run so much now. And I started getting better and better, going further and further. I finally knew how far I was running, so it wasn't a big mystery anymore. And this allowed me to plot out different courses in the section of the desert that I lived at, and really enhance my training significantly. My goal was to run the half marathon in 2012. Unfortunately, I did not reach my goal. However, I did run a half marathon the first week or two in January 2013. This was the Hoover Dam half marathon. And that was my very first half marathon, January 2013, my very first half marathon. And was it the Lake Mead half marathon? It might have been the Lake Mead half marathon or the Hoover Dam half marathon. They both got a very similar course out by Lake Mead, and it was one of those two. It might have been Running from an Angel. Something out at Lake Mead, a half marathon, the first 2 weeks, January 2013. When I got done with that race, that's when I was like, you know what? I could wake up any given morning and just run a half marathon, training or not. That's how I felt, like, wow, I didn't realize it was this easy, because remember, I thought it was impossible. I thought it was physically impossible for me to do this at one point in time. And so now, after conquering it, that broke a huge mental barrier, because now I was like, wow, that was actually easy, and I thought it was impossible. And so that's when I knew, well, eventually I'm going to be running a full marathon. That's when I said I'm going to be eventually running a full marathon. So in order to start preparing for that, I wanted to go up another distance. The following month, February 2013, I ran my very first 30K, the Blood, Sweat, and Beers daytime race hosted by Desert Dash here in Las Vegas, held out in Boulder City, Bootleg Canyon. And so, yeah, I ran out there. I went out there. I did the 30K. I think their course is like 18.6 miles or something like that. And I ran that 30K, and it is just treacherous desert trail, unforgiving, and you're climbing, you're scrambling. It's very difficult terrain. So by the time I got by the time I got to the finish line of that 30K, I was telling myself, if I could run a 30K deep in the desert with this mountainous terrain and stuff, a marathon on the street should be a piece of cake. That's what I was telling myself. And so I forgot to tell you guys this. I had already selected my marathon I was going to do. This year, in 2013, was the year that I studied abroad in Ireland. I studied language acquisition at the Marino Institute of Education in Dublin, Ireland. And since I knew I was going to be going to Ireland that summer, I thought that'd be the perfect time to run my first marathon. So that's why I started doing these other races to prepare for that. And I looked up a marathon. I found the best one that looked like it'd be the most fun. It was, I can't remember exactly what it's called. Oh, Forest Marathon. Forest Marathon in Portumna, Galway, in the heart of Ireland. And I selected that, and I just started training for it. So now back to where we were at. I finished the 30K. I said, you know what? I know I could run a marathon on the street. I keep practicing and training and everything like that. And one of my things, at least back then, was this. Any distance I trained for, I wanted to run it at least once during my training. I used to have this thing about, I have to run that actual distance at least once before the race. Now, especially with ultramarathons, I'm not so big on that. I don't run 100 miles at least once before a 100-mile race or anything like that, as I prepare for my very first 100-mile, 100K, and all that stuff. Anyways, so during that time, I went out and I ran what my Nike app said was 26.2 miles. I believed it to be 26.2 miles, at least in my heart. But now, later on, I will question whether that was the actual distance or whether there had been a miscalculation in that. But, so yeah, I did go out and run 26.2 miles in Las Vegas on some trails and stuff like that because I wanted to do that at least once. So I wouldn't have to worry about going to Ireland and getting 23 miles in before I, had to give up because whatever. I mean, I don't know. And so, now, one of the obstacles, one of the hurdles I had to jump was the school was a bit concerned about me participating in a marathon while studying abroad just for safety reasons and stuff like that. They normally had a rule where they wanted students to stick together, but because this was in another part of the country, I would be traveling and staying overnight and stuff like that, and I would be traveling by myself. So I took, in order to help me get through those challenges, I took a screenshot of my Nike app 26-mile run. I sent it to the school and told them, look, guys, I got this. Check out this. These are my stats. I just ran 26 miles. It's no big deal, really. And I had already, built a strong rapport with the school at that time, so they were confident in me. And they were like, all right, go for it. So anyways, fast forward, now I'm in Dublin. After my first week of classes, I traveled to Portumna, Galway to go do my first marathon. And one day I'm going to do a podcast episode or a vlog about my first marathon and everything that went down because it was pretty crazy. But anyways, one thing I could tell you guys now is once I got there, started to get ready for my marathon, well, looks like I forgot my socks. Yep, I got my dress socks on. I don't know why I was wearing dress socks, but I got dress socks on, and I had to do my marathon in those. And anyways, the course is essentially a 5K loop. So I'm running loop after loop after loop. And the course markings are all in kilometers. You know, my Nike app is going haywire on the 5K loops. Everything is marked in kilometers, so there's no way to really for me to tell how far I've gone, and it was just insane. But I was going for it. I had a group of runners I was running with for a long time. I was like the only person on the course with headphones. It was just nobody had headphones over there. There was a lot of spectators and they were cheering. This was like something big time for the spectators. You know, they were really into it. The people on the sidelines cheering. And anyways, I do all my time out there on the course. I get to my last little bit. I'm trying to finish, you know, my legs are locking up, my legs are cramping. It's my very first marathon. I'm finishing my last mile or something, hobbling in, can barely walk, you know, but as I come out of the forest into the area where the spectators are, you know, I find a renewed strength and I kind of like start jogging in and I see the finish line shoot. I know like it's almost over. I start getting more strength. I'm running and running through the pain, trying to like, you know, maintain. And I hit that finish line. As soon as I hit that finish line, I was thinking about my legs and stuff, and I was saying, you know what? I might, I want to do more, but I don't want to run any further. I do want to do more, but I don't want to run any further. And that's when I started thinking about swimming and biking, and that's how I started becoming it, getting into triathlons. So maybe we should go to part two now. Yeah. All right. That's the end of part one. Switching to part two.